Well, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are from in the world today. Thank you for tuning in to the Pleb Racing Series Endurance. And we're finding ourselves with 2 hours today at the infamous Green Hell. Currently, TV cameras following Moomin Papa, one of the loveliest guys I know, and flaunting his Mitsubishi Rain livery there. And I'll be updating the description soon with a link to Rain, as everyone has got together today to support Rain. That's what the PRS boys do. And of course, Diesel in the Toyota. Pleb's Charity Endurance Race Series. The PCERS. With his Rain National Network livery on that beautiful Toyota there, as he makes his way through the beginning section of the Nürburgring. So it's going to be an interesting one today. So I'm just going to quickly update my Discords and I will be back with you. Of course, any questions, please don't hesitate, ask in chat. That's what it's there for. Keep it lit, and yeah, I'll be back in 2 moments. Another awesome livery there on the GT3 Hurricane. Looks like we're about to begin qualifying. And here we go. Get my keyboard. It's time to rock and roll. Alright, we've got Phil first out on the pits. Moomin's still on mediums. I think that will benefit him, but I'm sure he'll be putting his softs on as we watch the 92 Austin Martin make his way through the right-hander here at the Nürburgring section. Now heading his way up to the RTL curves. keyboard seems to be working, so happy days there. Phil in 9th. And overtaking Sophie on the outlap. The endurance here, we've got Tonic up in P1. All drivers now beginning to exit the NGK chicane and on to the infamous green hell. Tonic up in P1, leading the pack in this qualifying session in the Nissan GTR. Howdy doodle, Dirk. And hello, Simon. Lovely to see you both. That Nissan's most certainly got some pace as it goes through a very uncomfortable, fast left-hander there. And it'll be interesting to see whether anyone wants to make any moves there on lap 1 or 2 of a 2-hour endurance. But nevertheless, he continues to make his way through the green hell. And of course, Ray Rivera joining us today. It's great to see that everyone has a unique livery for each of the cars. And hello to everyone in chat. Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining the Pleb Racing Endurance Racing Series. Ray just runs a little bit wide there. And Daniel is in the Toyota there. Very nice looking Toyota there, racing for Race Asylum. And we've got a few Race Asylum boys with us tonight. Just testing out some camera shots here as well. Wondering whether we get different options, which we do. So we get a better view of all drivers on track. And of course we're currently following Race Asylum Daniel in the Toyota FT1. Running a little bit wide there, but able to keep control. We've got Ray Rivera just behind Phil in his BMW M3. I think that's an M3, or is that an M4? It's an M3. But nevertheless, Ray may be able to capitalize on a little bit of slipstream here, most certainly will, as all drivers are now beginning to make their way through the Nürburgring and up to the long final straight. Howdy doodle, Richie, my main man. How are you, my friend? Thanks for popping in. joining us for the PRS Enduro. And big shout out to Rain Network today. Again, I'll be updating all this in the description for those that do want to make a donation, and obviously to make you more aware of the charity of choice that's made today's race happen. Do know that all charities are chosen by one of the drivers. So glad to hear it, buddy. Looking forward to the DTR. And up in P1, Giant Tonic, seemingly a fair ways away from the rest of the pack. And now begins to make his way. Down the, I mean, I'm looking at the corner names, but they are all in German. And Anton Anton Ischbusch, I guess. But nevertheless, Giant Tonic is now beginning to make his way through the final penultimate corners here at Nürburgring and crosses the line. But that was only the outlap. So I guess this most certainly gives it is a one shot, but at the same time I suppose you're getting up to speed with the track. You've got a long time to get in the flow for your one shot, which Giant Tonic in the #1 Rain National Network Nissan GTR, who is making his way up to the Dunlop curve, leads the way here for the Pleb Racing Endurance Series, and is perhaps one to keep an eye on today. Now going through the Schumacher S. Hard on the brakes, we see the suspension dip. Brake discs glowing, and he's run wide. Is that his lap done? Daniel in the beautiful sounding Toyota FT1, making his way up to the RTL curves. And exits through Bogen and on to the Nürburgring for his one shot. We've got the Lamborghini GT3. On with his one shot in the Lamborghini, followed by Yvonne. I hope I pronounced that right. Nevertheless, advertising Adrian Flux there. Hilarious. I'm pretty sure Adrian Flux ensured me when I had my lovely Peugeot 205 GTI back in the day. But nevertheless, she is rocking the Group 3 Volkswagen Beetle, and in hot pursuit is Ray Rivera there, and seemingly keen to get past. slipstream, both drivers making sure they've got the correct line through what could be death there for a number of the drivers. Now beginning to get back on the gas through that section, and you just keep it floored. Until you're hard on the brakes. But these Group 3 cars have very good downforce and will of course do the job. But nothing is on rails unless it's an F1 car. So there is of course 100% levels of grip to be used. Anything past that is a short ticket to Barry R, shall we say. But nevertheless, we've got Phil now in the BMW M3 making his way through a wonderful section of the Nürburgring, and we cannot forget the absolute legend driving for Race Asylum with his Rain livery in the number 33. Volkswagen Scirocco. In the Group 4s, we have Mr. Ears, Army veteran, and very, very, very quick driver. He's on my friends list, so I get to see the top 10 of drivers, and he is most certainly always in the top 3, up there with the very quick VQS Jack, who I think deserves a shout out. Hopefully we get to see him soon driving for Pleb Racing Series. But nevertheless, we move on to Mr. J driving from the USA in the Aston Martin V12 Vantage GT3, and he is pushing that thing, wanting to get the best possible time. And it's quite interesting to see the camera shots that they have for the Nürburgring, because obviously it's such a long section, everything's always completely new. So hopefully we get some action today for you boys and girls. Howdy doodle Don. Nice to see you, matey. Howdy doodle Dirk. Lovely to see you, my friend. Always a pleasure, and we're actually admiring the liveries today. Of course, we are driving for Rain. And Mr. Easttown Rat driving from Germany in the BMW M4. Oh, it is an M4. I do apologise, Phil. Absolutely brutal sounding BMW there. Rain National Network. And it must be said, Mr. Easttown Rat is absolutely pushing this to the limits. You two have absolutely got it. Giant Tonic completing his lap with an 8:14, but Daniel with an 8:09 in the Toyota. Third. Oh, we've got side-by-side action. Coming up to a very heavy braking section. And Ray Rivera able to capitalize on a little bit more. Slipstream putting him in third position. Tonic still in second. We've got Yvonne in fourth. Maybe they were both working together there, able to capitalize on some time together, but nevertheless that's put Phil in P5. Kies crossing the line, putting him in P7 in the Group 4 class. Okay, so more drivers now crossing that line. McLaren Fiji, P10, Diesel. Alrighty, so we've got Moomin still out on his lap, and like I mentioned before, one of the loveliest guys I know, and there he is saying a big hello to all you at home at YouTube, welcoming you to the Pleb Racing Endurance Series. And that brings that one to an end. So I'm just going to join chat with Rue, as we're all on the same one, and I'll be back with you in a second.
Hold on, I've got to come out and go back in again, or I won't be able to.
Hello, folks.
3 lights, 4 lights.
Matty, is that Matt?
That's Matty.
And it's go!
Hello, right, and we're off.
And
Got the green, green.
But Ari Do Legan T is in the lead.
Yeah, it's Daniel Legend.
Ah, Daniel Legend. He's holding his line there, takes the right, then goes to the left, and a good move there. That looks like the Toyota Supra, is it, or that special FGT one that they've got. He's already given a bit of a gap there, and it is Giant Tonic in second place, followed by Ari A92. Then Von Hoffler in fourth, and Ray Rivera in fifth.
Right, let's go back through. So, Matt, are you sort of joining into a chit chat, or are you just going to pop in now and again? How are we doing? What do you want to do?
I'm happy to do triple comms if you are.
No, yeah, man. Listen, you two are brilliant at it, and I just tend to make political comments. That works for me. Oh,
well, the action's most certainly going to begin now, isn't it? That's for sure, with the opening lap of the 2-hour race.
Man. Poor old Giant Tonic had a huge moment there. I haven't got any. There's only 2 corners on this, I know. Carousel and little carousel. I do know which is which though, so that's pretty good. So, I won't be popping in saying, no, you actually call it that, even with the map I've got in front of me.
Well, I don't know who you was following on your stream, but when I was obviously doing the comms for qualifying session, I noticed that Ray Rivera and Yvonne in P4 were side by side through the majority of that. I mean, we've got Giant Tonic now in P5. He has had that little spin, but he is behind some quick drivers, and obviously we're still at the beginning of the race. He's got plenty of time to work his way back up, but it does look as though Daniel in P1 as well as Jay in P2 driving from America is beginning to perhaps just pull away from the pack.
Now there's a good mixture of GT3s and GT4s here, aren't there? So it's going to be interesting to see, because obviously Daniel Legend is pulling away quite dramatically on this first lap. He's already over 3.2 seconds ahead, so making the most of that GT3 advantage. Almost get airborne there, but in these crucial early first few corners, he's certainly going to try and make the most of it. And we've got Yvonne Hoofler, who's now up into third. She is driving the Beetle, and I believe that is, is that the GT3 car?
I think it is a GT3 Beetle, yes. I've just noticed Ray Riviera had a huge moment. Sparks flying coming off the Armco, and he's back in 13th now. I just went to him quick to see him recover. There's going to be plenty of action over this next 2 hours. Yeah, like you say, I mean, Daniel in the previous races, especially at Spa, I notice he's a very consistent, very fast driver. Sometimes he gets a bit excited, but generally speaking, he's pretty good. Yvonne, we know, is very fast, and the rest, they're all pretty good. I mean, Stadtrata's is consistently fast, but this is a challenging circuit. This isn't Spa. This is Spa plus on heat with a machine gun, you know. So
it most certainly is. It looks like the Lamborghini has unfortunately just spun out there through one of the heaviest braking sections, definitely down into second if not first gear there, but he's out in the number 41 Lamborghini. But it is still early days. He can still get within the slipstream of some other drivers. He just needs to be careful now. We've got dirty tyres, and we've got Ray Rivera in P12.
Well, he's moved up. He's moved up because Moomin's behind him now. So Moomin may have had a moment as well in his Mitsubishi. We didn't get to Moomin when we were going through originally because I was being slow and inefficient as usual. Yes, Ray span earlier and ended up 13th, but Moomin looks like he's had a... They're all having moments. They're all having... I mean, Daniel's doing very well and charging off into the distance, 5 seconds ahead. J92 is also doing quite well in his lovely sounding Aston. Giant Tonic, who had that spin, is up to third now, so he's recovered and he's within sight, only 3.8 seconds behind J92. Yvonne, again, not very far behind and being pretty consistent. That could come to her later in the race. And she's got a nice 6.5 second gap over King Ears in the Scirocco. Now remember, there is a mix of GT3 and GT4 cars here, so there will be, well, with all the mistakes that people make on this hell of green, you know, there will be a bit of a mix-up, but generally speaking, the GT3 cars should be pulling away in front. Stadtrata in his BMW is... Oh, he's making up a little bit of time, is he? Making up a little bit of time on King Ears. And right behind him, we've got Mr. Hooligan, the organiser of these races. What's going to be going on here? Maxed out in 4th gear around the section which I call Mid-Wales. I can actually picture the bits of the A470 this reminds me of, and it's Powys, Mid-Wales. Marvellous. Then 2.5 seconds behind. Oh no! Challenge. Where can you overtake on this? Hugh, Matt, where can you overtake on this? Apart from the main straight.
Yeah, wow. I was going to say the main straight. It's unless somebody makes a mistake, it's really, really tricky because it's so narrow. And if you get it wrong, you're going to be in the barriers, so you're going to, spin off. You're going to be really, really careful. At the moment, it's fine for Daniel Legend. He is heading off into the lead, 7.5 seconds ahead. But for the others in the closer pack, they've got to choose their moment very, very carefully. and see what's see if they can get past or not. But yeah, it's going to be lots of careful driving, and maybe pit stops might make a difference as well.
Absolutely. No, I was just going to say.
I
was just going to say. I think overtaking in itself is such an art, and I think it depends on circumstance, doesn't it? I mean, obviously we've got 2 hours here, so it's more of a case. For me, if I was racing, I would just play the long game. Everyone's going to eventually find the natural pace and go from there. But I think obviously if you're racing for position because it matters, there's 3 videos that are flying about YouTube at the minute, and there's actually, I've seen them with a guy called, I think it's Ermin Ham Sandwich, is a sim racer, it's quite popular. But
Ham Sandwich, what a great name, I like that.
He's commentated on them because I think they're all in Porsches as well, the Porsche 911s, but they overtake, I think there's one who overtakes 23 cars in one lap of the Nürburgring, I think. And then there's another one that overtakes 53.
Oh, this is right, I've seen a Porsche overtaking a bunch of cars, but it's not for a race, is it? It's just like a day, what do you call it, a tourist trip out, but I think, is that the one I'm thinking of?
There's a few, it could very well be, yeah.
I've seen a couple where there's a couple of really fast cars. There's what is the damn car? There's a Porsche, but there's also another car that's super fast. I think it might be the Jag, a Project 8. Like Harry Metcalf has got. It's just 660 horsepower, four-wheel drive, and relative to other sort of Jags of that type, an XF, I think it is, super quick. Set up for race and road, and then they've got I think it's a powerful Porsche 911 Turbo or something like that, and they're both just carving past idiots.
Absolutely. Well, Ray Rivera's just got the slipstream now as he's coming down the very, very fast section, or the fastest section. See whether he's making a move, and he does.
That was amazing.
Is he gonna get on the anchors in time? And he is. But are they in different classes there?
I'll have a quick look. Let me just have a quick look by using the live timing. So let's see. We've got Ray Riviera is in the GT3. Yes, they're in Ostatogata's GT4 car. So yeah.
Well, he definitely made it happen. That's for sure. Now he's going for a move on Phil on the inside.
Oh no, King Ears! Was it King Ears or no? I was watching PRT Hooligan earlier, and he was having all sorts of problems. So this is the full circuit. This is the one that includes the F1 circuit, and not just a green hell. No, I have driven that, and it is it catches you out. It really catches you out coming from the twisty turny, and then suddenly you think, oh, I'm free, I can put my foot down, but you can't. It just drags you in, and you end up doing stuff like that, especially at the beginning of the F1 circuit's lap, like what happened to Mr. Hooligan. Frightening. Wonderful.
Absolutely. Well, we've most certainly been treated with some good action so far. Giant Tonic is still in P3. Ray Rivera now moving up into P5 as he makes his way past King Ears. And I do remember and know King Ears to be very fast. I think I did say on my stream that he's always in the top 3, next to VQS Jack as well. So he gets 2 shout-outs tonight. Well deserved as well. Also the championship winner of the HHTCR.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. Action-packed that was yesterday.
Yes, he's very quick. King is. He's very, very quick. So it'll be interesting to see where he comes around at the end of all this. But now Ray Rivera moving up into his class, got to chase 10.5 seconds of time down to P4 of Yvonne.
I'm just on board with Yvonne at the moment because she's going through that first section of the there's a car span in front of her. Giant Tonic span and she's now in third, keeping it tidy. But there's that first section where you get into a bit of a flow, and then a couple of the turns are quite tight, and unless you know they're there and you brake and get your speed right down, you just straight on, which is possibly what happened to Giant Tonic there. It's easily done. I do it all the time. I know it's not exactly a major surprise to the world, but still, even when I'm deliberately trying to remind myself, no, Andrew, don't overextend yourself, don't think you can go fast, I still do it. It just drags you in. Yes, go faster, you're enjoying this. Bang! Oops! So there you go.
Indeed. Well, we've got a Toyota in P1. Toyotas are very, very capable cars, I've realised. And I think especially for a race like this, I guess the FT1 is somewhat of a good choice. Once you get used to the way it drives, it can kill you, especially on a track that wants to kill you. But
it's one of those, is it?
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Yeah, but once you sort of get it down and you become familiar with how much power to give it and when to, give it, it becomes a very capable car. And he's now got nearly 7 seconds worth of time before it's Jay crosses the same point, so he's doing really well there. And Yvonne has also 23 seconds, but Giant Tonic is hot on the heels of Yvonne in the Volkswagen Group 3 now.
Oh yeah, that's a good battle. The fact they're almost neck and neck. He's desperately trying to get through.
Well, he spanned, so she got past when he was ghosted. Obviously, it's the span who was ghosted, but it's just, I mean, he's in a faster car. I think they're in different classes. I'm not sure. I don't want to go off the action to check.
Did they do a GT4, a Group 4 Beetle?
I don't know. Let me find out. Okay, let's see. That's Group 3. They're in the same class. They're both Group 3 cars, so okay. Okie dokie. Oh, will he get past?
It's neck and neck. Oh, some dodgy corners as well. They're going to be so careful. He's done it.
He's got it.
I think that Nissan is very, very fast in a straight line.
Yes, I think it is one of the fastest almost in a straight line. I think it was Wumble Leader did a video, and I think it had one of the fastest straight line speeds. I might actually be thinking of the Group 3 if I'm honest. 2, sorry. Not the Group 3, but they're a very capable engine.
The problem with Giant Tonic is that the reason he was behind Yvonne is because she was just tidy keeping it on the black stuff and he keeps spinning. But he nearly just spun then. If you can see, he's a bit sort of twitchy. Very possibly that he's on the controller. But it's you've got to be smooth. One thing you've got to be the Nordschleifer is smooth and not overdrive it. Because if you overdrive it, one of the corners is going to catch you out. A curb will catch you out. A bit of grass, bang, gone.
Yeah.
And there's no forgiveness. You've got 5 feet to Armco. Not going into carousel. Get that hooked up, which is there's someone right behind her. There's Lord, she span. It's the pressure got to her, bless. The pressure got to her. Oh, it's me saying that she's not been making any mistakes. And Ray Riviera, right up her chuff. I hadn't noticed. And coming out the carousel. Oh, it's terrible. It's hard to get the carousel right.
So she's about 8.5 seconds behind Ray. Will she be able to get that back and start to clamber back up the field? There's already 44 seconds between her and Daniel Legend in first place. So he's doing a very dominant performance so far. But it's a 2-hour race and they've only done 15 minutes.
I was told off yesterday because apparently Glasgow thinks that I used to say his name wrong and call him Glasgow. Which I don't remember doing. I usually pride myself in being able to say Glasgow, at least a little bit of wee Scots. But just to make sure, it's Daniel Egent. I know I did say legend earlier, but I got it wrong. So I'm correcting myself. Oh! And I just... Commentator's curse, I've just nearly made him spin by getting his name right.
Who's that?
Daniel in first place. He came out of the carousel, or mini carousel, and got a bit of a swerve on back end, sticking out, showing his arse to the world, caught it and then carried on. Let's see what speed he's getting to. So he's managing to get, he's got 163, 65. It's not as quick as I thought it would be. I was getting 202 in a 900 horsepower GTR last night. Just because I wanted to. Crashed at the end, but, you know. So he's got to 172, 173 on the straight. Does that sound about right to you guys, Matt?
Yeah, yeah.
Let's watch him go into the new section.
Just seeing whether Phil can make anything happen here, as we've got a BMW chasing the Volkswagen down.
I'll go back. I want to see him go into turn 1 of the F1 circuit. The name of which I did know a while ago.
He's gone side by side.
Oh, get back
He's
there.
got the run. Slipstream's giving him the run. You've gone back in the draft of the BMW.
She's got a 7th gear, so
is in the back there as well.
She's closing back up on him. Oh, on the grass, on the grass!
On the grass!
That's on the edge, that is. I do like that 7th gear. I never thought I would. But there's a couple of cars
give
now.
her that little extra bit, yeah.
It just means you can set, when you've got a track like this, more gears the better, because then you can set it up so that you're in the right gear for everything.
Yeah.
Let's see how they do turn 1. The name of which I've completely forgotten again. What is it? Hugh? What is it?
It's turn 1. Turn 1, then turn 2.
Yeah, but that's a Scotsman up the name. God knows. I don't know why. It's just there's lots of corners in Scotland, I suppose.
Very rarely a street.
Right, I want to go back a little bit because I don't like to leave people out. Let's go right to the back. Let's go with old Moomin. We've got to look after Moomin. Moomin's been so good. He's been working so hard, and he talks so lovely with his West Country accent. Look at that, isn't it? God, that car's slow in a straight line. It's really 155. It's like it's limited to 156. That's not an FQ 430 or whatever they call it, 400.
Well, he's definitely going to have learnt a lot of the Nürburgring at the end of this, so he's get faster and faster. But it's just lovely to have Moomin with us, really, here on track, supporting Rain, the chosen charity for tonight. Yeah, thank you. That was the word I was looking for.
Oh, we've got Richie and we've got John in my chat. Hello, Richie and John. Let's just have a look on your stream as well. Who's in your stream? I'd like to say, Dougie, Greater 14, having to sit things out because he's... And Ian, we've got Ian, and some people I don't know, Ray Coxlar. Chris, hello to all of you. Thank you for joining Matt's... Oh, and Darko, he's in there as well. Thank you all for joining Matt's stream. He does a much better job than me, so I'd definitely like to promote what he's doing. What do you think the best line is for turn 43? Well, I know I can answer this, because in turn 43, what you have, I'll try and describe it, is you have tarmac, you have some curbs, grass, Armco and trees. So I think the best line is the one where you're on the tarmac and you're not in the trees. That's my opinion.
Well, you've heard it first from the comms legend, how to take turn 43 like an absolute boss. And I am curious though, Rue, on, you know, at the end of the day, I know you don't consider yourself a racer, but, you know, you are still a human, and you experience things like the rest of us. How, because you've just sort of getting into the Gran Turismo series, you know, as a new person, so it's all fresh for you, how do you find the experience, and what do you think to the different class of cars? I'm assuming you've driven the Group 3 and Group 4s? Because obviously, you know, the
1, 2, 3, 4, X rally car. I've driven pretty much all the different groups now.
I do have to just jump back in though, because Giant Tonic is most certainly working his way back up. It's Jay in the rear-wheel drive. Austin Martin has just made... he went a little bit sideways there through, again, one of the heaviest braking sections where you want to be down to the second or first gear, but he's now only a 0.9, 0.8, 0.7, 0.6, so he's in slipstream range, but he's gone too hot. And on to the grass.
Oh, this corner, there is a specific bit in mid-Wales where you go in through all these lovely sweeping turns, you get a good speed up, smooth road, and then suddenly, on the side of a rally, it's a practically right-hand bend. And in my younger days, when I used to drive south to see the Outlaws, I very often ended up on the wrong side of that road. because it just used to catch you out, and you have to sort of pull yourself back. Right, well, to answer your question, and I'm going to be, thanks for I thought so, professional opinion. Well, I'm not professional because Hugh hasn't paid us yet. Duh. Anyway, so, yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, and I've made no secret of the fact that I wasn't a sim racer, and, you know, I enjoyed playing games like anybody else, but I couldn't get on with, I liked Sega Rally in arcade because I was effectively like I am now, thanks to some fantastic people that I got to know, like steering wheel and pedals, you know. I used to enjoy that, but when I got onto like a pad and stuff, I couldn't get on with it because I just catapulted between the sides of the track, on this track in fact. And then, you know, some idiot from Dun, Scotland, forced me into it. I'll let you all guess who that Scottish person is. Patrick! And, you know, I thought, pure guilt, I better get into this a bit. So, and I found, I've had a lot of people telling me off, oh, you don't use the motion controller, it's no good, but I found it's the only way I could do it, because it was like a steering wheel, even if I was rubbish. What's happened? Something happened. Sorry, I was on Sophie and she disappeared, so she's obviously had internet problems. That's gutting. I hate it when that happens to one of the drivers, where they end up getting kicked out or they have issues. That's so sad. She was doing really well. I know she's near the back, but it's a hell of a track.
Something must have happened there. Yeah.
Something must have happened. So,
Jay's off.
Oh,
Jay's made a mistake and has given the run to Giant Tonic. I'm just going to take a replay on that one.
Oh, and not Yvonne, no, Ray's got past him as well. He's got issues. Right, he's ghosted. I think he's probably got problems with his, it won't be the internet, but with his,
with his pedal set perhaps? Yeah, Sophie has left. Sophie, I'm too poorly to finish this. Oh dear. Sophie must be...
she's poorly sick. Poorly sick. Oh, Sophie, if you can hear this, if you're listening, we're gutted for you. Absolutely gutted for you, because we love to watch you and Yvonne race in Taya's streams. Something very strange is going on with Jay. Very strange indeed.
Yeah, it could be...
He must have pressed the options key. So he must be trying to sort something out. Maybe something's happened and he's had to nip away. Because it's going round itself.
Okay, so let's go back to, I was on board with Diesel, RAA Diesel, while I was talking nonsense. So yeah, so I started getting into it, and I found it was okay, but I got the most joy out of setting a car up, because I found every car that they give you, the back end just wants to swap on you.
Yeah.
If you're not in a dead straight line, the back end swaps on you, and it's like, well, I can't be having this. So those first streams I did, those first videos I did, were me setting up the McRae Hutch Special, as I call it, that Subaru, to sort of handle properly. That was a lot of fun. And it's not that I don't like racing, it's that I just discovered I was rubbish. I love driving, and I'm a pretty decent driver. Tend to be a fast driver and a safe driver. I'm not someone that goes around with my head up my arse not knowing what's going on around me. And I just couldn't... I didn't want to be faster than everybody, but I wanted to be competitive. So that didn't help. And then now I've got the wheel, and I'm better with the wheel, but what I've realised is that there's some fundamental things that I'm getting wrong. Whether it's the wiring in my head or getting too old or whatever, and I'm having to reteach my brain how to operate the wheel and pedals of this sim. Mm-hmm. And that's now what I'm doing. I'm enormous amount of fun when you and Richie do your mad, let's go do something stupid on tracks thing, and Ian and Moomin decide they're going to punt me off and stuff like that. But I really like to learn a track and improve and get into a flow and understand what it is I'm doing to be able to do it better. So that's now what I'm doing. I'm now spending, I can't say exactly how much a day because it depends on the day. So like last night, 2.5 hours just going around one track in one car I can get on with, like I'm driving out in the countryside. I'm not trying to go as fast as I can. I'm just trying to go in a way that I enjoy driving, and it's great. I love it. And I've gone from 11 minutes on this to 8:40.
Nice.
Wow.
Which is not competitive, you know. I'm not sort of.
How do you feel that the sort of cars respond? How do you like if you know if you were driving here today and you was in, you know, let's start with the Group 4 cars. You know, would you feel comfortable doing 2 hours?
Yeah. It would depend on the car. It would very much depend on the car, because like last night. So I did a quick race. The only race I seem to be able to do competitively is Special Stage X. So Richie who had a Special Stage X thing, and I won. I just joined them and I won because we did it the other week where I won a couple of times, didn't I? And I just thought, right, this is easy. I can do tic tacs and I've got my car set up right, and I can bide me time and just slipstream past them all. And I think I won by 0.005 of a second, which I was really chuffed with. Oh, it's just great. And then I did a Nico Rosberg and retired immediately. I went to the Nordschleife to sort of practice, but I used the same car with different gearing, and it was great because it had so much power. I could just point and squirt, and I just really enjoyed driving it around. But then there's other times when I've been on this track. Remember that time when Matt, when we had Zavicic and all them lot, and Zavicic and Scotty were fighting at the front on the Nürburgring. The Nordschleife, and I was somewhere at the back, but I was in a Group 2 car. I think I was in the NSX I've got, and it was all right. I mean, I made some mistakes and stuff, but that was one before I'd even got the wheel.
Yeah.
It's the problem I have is that because I'm actually, and Richie, if you remember, he discovered this when we were playing golf. I'm actually really competitive. I just don't. My competition bone is more internal. I don't want to beat other people. I just don't want to be crap. I hate making mistakes.
Yeah, no, I mean, I understand that. I mean, because, you know, everyone's sort of found their sort of place, haven't they, at the minute? And I'm sure we'll have contact with some of the drivers again, which we need to keep our eyes on. But I think you know, just the joy of driving, I think, is something I think we all love, and it's probably something I think for me, you know, I just love to be able to, especially Gran Turismo. What Gran Turismo is amazing for, and I can't wait for the next game in a couple of months, is just the being able to get in an infinite array of different vehicles that you would never be able to get in other worlds, and be able to drive them the way you want. You know, without the pressure of racing. I think that I much prefer driving to racing, but I do love racing. I'm obviously not saying it's a bad thing at all, but just the pleasure of driving. And I'm sure all the contenders that are here today are absolutely loving themselves being on the Nürburgring for over 2 hours. It's you know, every time I get on and put in a minimum of an hour onto a track, you do start to get a little bit of an affinity with the track, and then you start learning the fastest route, where the bumps are, where, you know, sometimes you need to be on it, especially on the Nürburgring, and there's so much to remember, but it's such a bumpy track. You have to keep that car as stable as possible to maximise your brakes and, you know, get them fastest laps sort of thing.
But it's a process, isn't it? Because I mean, the problem is I was jumping onto the rig or onto the game, and I was trying to go straight into where the bumps are, get the line right, which curves do I use, when I hadn't actually got the right neurology to be able to get a car around a track smoothly. So I've realised that, and I had a bit of advice from a close friend of mine that sort of realised the same sort of brain training was needed. I'm literally now at the stage of dialing it right back to first principles. I am now driving around. You know, I remember Hugh, the first time I sort of did a stream and Hugh was talking in my ear and he was going, take this line, take that line, and it's like, I'm trying to keep it on the track, Hugh, and you're sort of telling me, take this line, take that line, go this gear here, and it's like, and then I'd hit the brakes and smash into a wall, and it didn't matter what gear I was in. And I was doing the same to myself though. I was trying to go faster. The first lap out would be my best one because I was being more careful, and then I would just come off the circuit every time. You know, I'd do an old Mac attack where I'd be super fast for 3 corners and then hit a wall. It's just, but sort of just forcing myself to calm down, slow down. Oh, Phil's having a bad time. Mr. Hooligan is having a really bad day. He's got King Ears, he's back up behind him. Oh, bless. Let's watch them both go around the carousel. Phil can't get that.
That's a dodgy bit.
Carousel. You've got to hook that inside wheel in.
Yeah.
I've seen enough interviews with Sir Jackie Stewart to know how to do the carousel. You hook it in, keep the throttle constant, and then fire yourself out. Go too far, you spat off into the wall. Terrible.
Now Richie is asking how Moomin Papa is doing, and at the moment,
yes, let's go. He's in 10th because we've lost a few people. He's last, and he's in that. It's a nice enough car, but it's just kind of.
I think it struggles for the top line. I think the Mitsubishi.
156, I think he got to, compared with 170 for some of the other cars. That's quite a difference.
But he's in 10th place at the moment, about 1 minute 15 seconds off RAA Diesel in 9th. And so he's out on his own, and he is about 3.5 minutes off the first place man, Daniel Hedgent. It's a very murky day. Look at the mist coming down.
Yes, it's about 8:30 in the evening, I believe, something like that.
Oh, Moomin Papa's just gone off and slammed that barrier, but he's back on the track, though he's managed to retain and be able to get back on, yep.
Must be a rally car, it's used to hitting things. So I'm really enjoying it now. I'm actually really enjoying going for a drive, and I'm getting people sort of taking the mick and, oh no, Simon taking the mick, oh no, he's talking about the A470 again. But that was my favourite road, and it has all these different flows and different types of corners, and sort of like you're saying, Matt, getting back into that, getting into sort of just driving and enjoying the driving. It's been 7 years since I've sat in a car, and I've missed it. I've really missed driving, and I really miss riding. So this is giving me my fix on that. Now I realise that's what I should be doing, not racing. And then as I get quicker, as it gets automatic, my goal, if anything, is to be able to at least keep up with you guys, so that I can learn how to race. Because until you can actually keep up with people, there's no point learning how to race. Because it's a different skill, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, Gran Turismo is definitely the best game for that. I think, you know, it's. I mean, watching what you was doing the other day. Oh no.
Plenty of time behind her though. Let's have a look at this nice Aston Martin.
Yeah, I think what you was doing the other day in all the different types of cars and just being able to get in them and have a play with them and take them out on the track. I think, you know, it's just the fun of driving, isn't it? I think the most I've learned through sim racing is to just be as smooth as possible. And I think especially when you start doing endurance races like what we're seeing today for rain, you know, the beginning, I'm sure it's a little bit, you know, your heart's beating a bit faster, you're side by side, you want to get that position, but, you know, moments like these, you can sort of relax, you can sort of just get in the flow of you and the vehicle and the track, and then it's lap after lap, you start to get more used to it, and you start to just get into a flow.
Yeah.
Get more used to the track, and I think then you stop pushing so much, because I think
you're
racing.
Not chasing times, are you?
This is
you're
it.
able to.
Yeah, you're able to just be yourself with the car and the track, and you know, I think there's no need to push as hard as you would at the beginning, I suppose.
Instead of chasing times, you need to be chasing car control and driving skill.
Do you know Keith Code?
Car
Is it Keith
placement.
Code?
No, I don't know that name.
He's an American. I think it's Keith Code, but he's an American motorcycle racer, and he did a like how to be fast and safe and all that sort of stuff. Because I had a motorbike and I wanted to know how to ride it properly, because I wanted to be safe. I've been on track a couple of times at Cadwell Park, my local circuit. Absolutely amazing.
Oh, really? Oh, good lad.
Yeah, and you know, he taught me a lot, and he taught me. There's two things he said that's never left me, and the first one is you've only got $5 worth of attention when you're getting on a bike, or you know, you're getting in a car, whatever it is. If it's new, you've only got your five quid to spend on attention, so it's all going to be in the clutch, then it's all going to be on the brakes, then it's all going to be on the steering, then it's all going to be learning the car, then it's all going to be about learning the track. And I think, like, people say talent, and I do believe there is talent, but I think everyone has talent, but some people take longer to get it, because I think all anything is you just have to teach your brain, not even reteach your brain, just teach your brain the new neural networks, because ultimately that is how we learn and how we get better. And you can't just get on a track and expect to be fast, even if you're a quick driver, because it always takes lap after lap after lap, and them neurons bridging to your next neuron, so you know exactly where to brake. Because I can't remember where it was, but I was racing for quite a while at some circuit, and you know, it was all adrenaline for quite a while, but eventually I just sort of settled in and kind of knew the track, and then eventually I could get the car to its absolute limit, but I could do it safely. And I think that's the difference between people that, you know, are really in control of the car. Because people that are pushing, and I mean I push all the time, you know, you want that fast lap, so you push, but I think I always find when you're pushing, that means you're pushing past what your neurons have already been taught, and therefore you can then end up in a situation that you're not able to handle, which in motorsport is a spin, or you're off track, or anything like that.
You've got it, Matt. You've absolutely got it. Exactly what I mean, I explained it very badly, but it's when I first started learning to drive, I think, like you say, I've got a sort of an intrinsic. Oh, God, right. I was listening. One of my favourite car programmes of all time, racing programmes of all time, is an old BBC show from the early 90s called The Power and the Glory. Now, it's on YouTube. I've watched them all again. I've gone on to Hugh about this. Just half-hour programmes, but there's 12 or 13 of them. And one of the shows is called The Right Stuff, and it's talking about the drivers. And they're interviewing the likes of Sterling Moss and Nigel Mansell and Senna, and I mean, they even interviewed people like Paul Frere, and I mean, it was just the likes of people that aren't around anymore to talk to. Even Fangio was still alive when they interviewed him. And Sterling Moss was great, because he said you get people like Fangio who have a massive amount of natural ability, and you get some people that take a lot of work, like Nigel Mansell. He said he thought he was sort of like somewhere in the middle. But you all need work. You know, it doesn't matter how much natural ability you got. If you don't put the work in to sort of make everything automatic, like you were saying, you're not going to be at the top. And the interesting thing about what you just said there, everything, when you're trying to push on, or you first get onto a track, or everything you do, or just drive a car, until it becomes automatic, it's dangerous. Because if you're having to think about it,
absolutely,
you're already doing it too late. And that's what was happening to me. I was having to think, just like I did when I first started learning how to drive. Brake till I get to this speed, so that I know I can get around the corner. Turn that. Oh damn! I've turned in too late, because I was at heartbeat too late, because I'm thinking through the process. Yeah. But what I'm trying to do, having realised, I thought, right, well, what can I do about making it automatic? Look at rally drivers. Everything they do 100 yards ago.
Yeah, well, this is what I've realised, and this is what I've realised. Actually, getting back into sim racing and just realising my love for it, and like you said, the community side is a big thing of it. You know, I'm happy I've met you as well, and it's all just being able to share your passions with motorsport. But rally,
just a good bunch of pals who are coming. Superb, all here. Oh, Ant. Speaking of good bunch of pals, Ant's in the chat. Hello, Ant. Carry on.
Yeah, I was just going to say, rally is it's made me realise the reason why I love it so much is not only are you in control while you're out of control, it's being it puts you in the now, and I think that's what we love about racing. But when I say racing, I don't mean cars on a track. I mean cars side by side. That's racing. And yes. I think that's what increases our hearts. That's because then it becomes new, because you've got a different line to take. You've got neurons that you haven't actually had rewired, so therefore it becomes a whole new experience, which then puts you in the present moment. And what I love about rally is it's a constant present moment. You are constantly in threat of killing yourself, and
yeah, you're constantly out of control.
Yeah, but the more I've played it, and the more my love's grown for rally, the more it's given me an appreciation for sticking at it. Because the more you do things, the more you get, you know, again, it's exactly what I said earlier, you get used to the car, you get used to its limits, and then it's all about listening to your co-driver, obviously, and then when it all works together, it just feels great, because you realise that you've got it all together. And that's exactly the same for for this. It's just the car's not out of control. It's obviously you want the car to be as smooth as possible in this sort of racing.
Yeah, I just want to say that the leader has just come out the pits to refuel, and he's got fresh soft tyres on.
He was struggling quite a lot. I've been watching him over the last lap there, and he was off quite a few times on the grass and struggling. So I think he had to come into his pits. It was getting on the edge.
But still in P1.
Yeah, he had enough time. I think he had like 2.5 seconds. He struggled a bit when he first came out of the pits, but he ended up with like 2.5 seconds now. He's pulled that out to 4 over Ray Riviera. So what do you think, Hugh? I mean, what's your take on all this? You've been doing this for a while. You've improved massively over the time I've known you. You've always been quicker than me, and people have generally thought of you as a fairly quick driver on Gran Turismo. And I remember when you first got Assetto Corsa, I mean, apart from the obvious laugh and gags that we had when you were getting it set up for you, bored out your brains, and then span every time you went near a corner, but you were in a Porsche 911, so that's fair enough. But even then, you said, coming off of ACC, which was frustrating for you, you found that you were better on Gran Turismo?
Yeah. It's hard to explain, but I think for me, ACC is a much heavier kind of simulator in terms of you feel everything when you drive that car, especially when you drive it in the proper cockpit mode.
So you're talking about feedback and through the steering wheel and what you get in. Oh, okay.
You can't just chuck it around. You've got to, if you brake too late, you tend to go off into the gravel. It's very unforgiving, and so you had to be so. It's almost like when you were doing my bus driving. Not in the same way. If you brake too late, you're off into the bus stop. But But in terms of you've got to think ahead. You can't just fling the car about and just this will be easy like an arcade game. But I think a little bit of Gran Turismo, there is, maybe not so much now because it's more competitive, but you can be a lot more kind of adventurous in Gran Turismo and maybe not have any of the penalties. While in ACC, if you don't think, you'll make a mistake. The penalties are there straight away, in the fact that you'll lose time, you'll go wide on a corner, all that kind of stuff. So it felt like it was much more work you had to put into the game. But it rewards you, and once you've done a lot of ACC and you come on to Gran Turismo, I always found I was faster, especially in Group 3, which is probably my least competitive setting. So yeah, it's funny how that works, but it makes you learn a lot more, I think, with ACC. So then you come on to games like Gran Turismo and you get a lot more out of it.
Yeah, so I suppose it's because Gran Turismo is more forgiving. and requires, I suppose, less of you in a sense. Though I mean, I'm struggling and stuff like that, but you know, in the real sense, it requires less of you. A bit like if you're driving on the road, less is required of you than if you're trying to take a racing car, which is harder to drive, and you need to be more precise and more gentle and less ham-fisted on the brakes. You then get back into a normal car. It's like when on Top Gear, when they had the star and the reasonably priced car, and then they had the F1 drivers. Yeah. And you know, the star and even the fastest of the stars in the reasonably priced cars were all sort of like, they were trying and concentrating. And I remember one where, I don't know whether it was Button or Nigel or whichever one it was, they were kind of going one-handed at 90 mile an hour.
Yeah.
And Clarkson says to him, "You're not even paying attention." And it's like, mate, they're not like you. They are paying attention, but it only takes a tiny fraction of their brain because everything's happening so slow compared with what they used to. Well, 90 mile an hour, and that's nothing.
I've got a good story for you. With one time when we were at Company Car in Action back in 2007 or thereabouts, or maybe 2009, I think it was. Jonathan won this amazing competition at BMW. The BMW stand, they were asking you to put in your business cards, and the prize was a BMW 5 Series, I think it was, or one of the big BMWs, and basically he was there to help launch it. And I mean, this was unbelievable. This is a fleet driving day where the average age is, in their 60s, and we were there driving all these cars. But to our amazement,
I know about you and John driving those cars, so I know all about that, pal.
Yes, at Millbrook. And the thing is, Jonathan won the competition. And because obviously I was with him with the company at the time, I had to go with him. I said, "If you're winning, I'm your boss. I'm coming with you." So the two of us went in, and there was the car in the background, and there was about 10 people in Hull that were in the little room. And then your Robert Kubica came in and introduced himself, and then we had the chance to have this question and answers a session with him, and because nobody else spoke and we were standing right next to him, we thought it would be impolite not to say. So we had plenty of questions for him. But the big thing was, not only did we have the question and answer session, Jonathan had a chance to actually win a drive with them. So they have the performance and the handling track with Robert Kubica. But it wasn't just
him. I presume this was before he had the accident and the damage to his arm.
Yes, that was before that happened. So what the first thing was, he would go out with a normal kind of driver, or a professional driver, but just someone who was there from BMW, and so they're pretty quick, but they're just a professional driver. So Jonathan did that, and he said, it was good fun, it was pretty fast, and the car was skidding all over the place, and as you would expect, I think he was driving an M3. And then he went out with a touring car driver, because they also had one of the guys from the BTCC there, who was giving professional drives. I can't remember who it was, but he came along and he gave a drive, and John said, that was like another step up in terms of what the feeling was like and how much they could go, how much they could skid the car around the corner. Then he got Robert Kubica.
Okay.
And that was incredible. He said it wasn't just a step up, it was a kind of leap up, and I'm sure if he's still in the chat, he'll agree with me. Basically, Robert Kubica did the handling track with one hand, and was doing these huge skids and brought, power slides, and was still talking to John. And
that's just incredible.
Wow. They're so far ahead. They're just looking so far ahead, and to them it's so normal. It's not an issue driving a normal road car, really. It's easy compared to what they were driving.
Well, they don't have to think. It's like Matt says, and this is. I know it kind of sounds like I'm being nerdy about this stuff, and thankfully Matt sounds like a nerd too, because I like nerds and nerds rule. And the point is, though, is that our brains are involved in this kind of stuff, and when you do everything from riding a bike, walking, speaking, everything, you're making patterns in your head, and it becomes automatic, and then it's fast. If you have to think about it, it's going to be slow. There's the only psychologist in the world, or there's 3 psychologists in the world that I've got any kind of respect for. One of them's Jordan Peterson, of course, but proper psychologist instead of him. There's 2 fellas. One's dead now. Danny Tversky and Danny Kahneman and Amos Tversky, the 2 Israeli psychologists that hated psychology. They were sort of dragged into psychology because of Israeli army stuff in the 50s when they were fighting all the time. And they invented this system called fast and slow thinking, or they described a system called fast and slow thinking. There's the automatic stuff, fast thinking, and then there's the things where you have to consider it and go through data and all that kind of stuff. And that's slow thinking. It's very well known, you know. So the more we know, the more you practice something, the more you do something, the less you have to think about it, the less you have to sort of effort you have to put into actually thinking about it, because it becomes automatic. And then what Matt was saying earlier about when you're racing side by side with people is that when you get to a certain level, you've done so much of that racing side by side, your brain is now stored up so much, how can I put it, so much automatic knowledge of lines and grip and how to respond to things, that's why the likes of Verstappen and Hamilton and you know, dare I say, Danny Ricciardo can do some of the things they can do, like on the brakes and go for moves, because they don't have to think about it. The brain's just wired to do those things that well, whereas some of the others, it's not wired as well, and therefore they struggle or they can't do it because they haven't, like you say, to think about it instead of just do it as an automatic thing.
Well, do you put your trousers on every day?
No, not necessarily.
Well, when you do, which leg do you put in first?
Always the right leg.
Oh, so you are aware.
Stand on my left leg.
Well, I was trying to make a point that you were supposed to not be aware, but I was trying to make a point that habits you do automatically. And I guess like when you drive, the psychologist I was listening to put it quite simply in the way that you've got two active waking consciousnesses. You've got your autopilot, which is your robot mode, just actually acting. So that's I've driven from there to there and I don't even know what I've done. And then you've got consciousness, which is where you're actually present and self-aware of yourself in the moment. There's those two parts of your brain, and only one is ever active at all times. So obviously autopilot, I think, is where people struggle and start saying, I don't like this, I don't like the track, I don't like the car, I can't do it, because they feel like they're already at the limit. Whereas, you know, through maybe similar reasons and why, I've also learned that that's how people get good at what they do, because they're doing it all the time, and they realise that you're never at your peak, because you're always creating new neural connections. And that's all it is, just one connection to another, your brain just going, just a little firing off from one neuron to the other, and it can only exist through practice, can only exist from actually doing it.
It's like when you're a musician, okay? I've been playing the guitar badly for a very long time, I've not touched on for years, but one of the things that I found out very early on, that I was too lazy to take advantage of it, is that it's no good just practicing. You've got to practice it right, because if you practice it and keep getting it wrong, you're reinforcing the mistakes. So when you know, like when you're playing the guitar, getting your finger picking or getting your finger position, all this kind of stuff on the neck, and it's the same with the driving and riding and everything that we do, that if you, because they say that you do it right, you do it slow, and the speed comes, because the speed comes as it gets wired into your brain as an automatic thing. But you've got to make sure that what you're doing is the right thing, and you're reinforcing the right thing. So it's like someone wanting to play really well, you know, pick really fast and do the song at the same speed as the professionals, and making all these mistakes so it sounds terrible, but at least they've got everything right. You know, they've got the song at the same speed, but it's like, well, no, what you need to do is to slow it right down so it sounds all wrong, but get everything correct, and then you're creating the pathways that make that song perfect, and the speed comes as you do it more and more and more, and it becomes more automatic. So this is what I'm trying to do with Gran Turismo. I've only got Gran Turismo, I can't do ACC or anything like that, but with what I've got, I'm trying now to direct the practice to create being able to brake without thinking about it, being able to know what sort of speed I need to be going to get around certain corners without thinking about it, turn in at the right place without thinking about it, then it'll just, the speed will come. I'm having to fight myself to do that because I want to go quicker. You know, you want to get, oh, come on, I've got to go faster, got to go faster. Some of the stuff I was watching, I've been going through the people, you know, our amazing races, several of which have done, I think everyone's been in the pits now. I thought I better mention that because we have got a race going on. But some of the I was watching Yvonne, and we know Yvonne's fast, and she was tidy as anything the first so many laps. And there's some corners where, just like I have, you're trying to go a bit quick around it, and it just takes you off the track. You know, it's like we want to go and push a little bit harder and push a little bit harder. So Matt, you've coined push, and oh, we need to mention this to Mr. Hattrick as well. We've invented a saying for you, a T-shirt. Diaco's got a shirt that says push on it now.
Push it.
And I think we need to get one for you with your braking called stop. But it's like
I think that's a good T-shirt, and my next T-shirt needs to be Elbows Hat-Trick.
Elbows, that's just great.
That's a good one, isn't it? I need to get that one. I need to go back on.
And then on the back, stop.
Yeah.
We can have push on the front and just stop on the back. I don't know. But my little mantra now is don't push. Don't push.
There's a bus under my brakes, I'll say.
There's a bus. Oh, that's fantastic. Best one. There's a bus under my brakes. I still love the way that our Darren Turner, he's now got load cell brakes. He's gone slower, keeps crashing, and that's one of your biggest moans about your brakes, that you haven't got load cell brakes. He's just not used to it. It's exactly what we're talking about, Hugh. He's not used to it.
I was going to say, everyone that I've heard that's had load cells says it's the best thing, and it's the one thing that's made them faster.
Yeah.
But then again, he thinks my Welsh accent's rubbish, so what are you going to say, eh?
I had to go on, when I was down at Taya and Jeff's party back in the summertime, I had a chance to have a shot on her rig, and she had proper pedals. I mean, it's an amazing rig that she's got, and immediately it felt better. It was just so much smoother, and even though the brake was solid, it just immediately gave you the feel. So you could hit it hard, and then that brought the speed off. So it stopped you making that mistake of braking a little bit and then braking a bit more, and of course then that upsets the car. So I thought it was quite easy to adapt to.
Okay.
But
I mean, we don't know. But it like you said, he's just not used to it. He's not used to it, and he's struggling to adapt. And you're not, you know, because and Darren, if you ever hear this, there's no way I'm not.
Oh no, he's very quick. Darren is quick.
I'm laughing at the irony. That's all. The irony of you should swap pedals.
I'll have them. I'll happily have them.
But yeah, it's just.
Here's the thing, though, Roo. We're talking about for now that you're getting used to having a steering wheel and pedals, but you're struggling with getting around the track or just staying on the track and getting quicker because you're not used to it. I reckon, though, if you had some, you know, like the guys down at what's it called again? We went there a couple of years ago in Leeds.
Simgrid.
Not Simgrid.
Simtrack.
Simtrack. Yes, Adam Crofts. Because you get James Kellett, who's the Ginetta champion, to teach you, and you're in a proper car. And I reckon that with a bit of practice like that, or if you got one-to-one tuition on a rig like what you've got already, then I think, you know, if you had a proper seat and so on.
But it would have to be the right person, because one of the biggest problems I have is just, you know how much I hate that phrase. What you need to do is, unfortunately, the kind of people that start with "what you need to do is" are the kind of people that I immediately can't listen to. Because it's.
So who would be good for you? Who would be the kind of like?
I don't know.
If David Perel could give you one-to-one, he used to give one-to-one tuition. But
he seems someone very kind who's got the mental capacity to understand that things aren't always simple.
Luca does one-to-ones.
Did he what?
Lukas Zavicic. He does 1-to-1s.
Does he? Yeah, he would be very good.
You're not going to get any
he'd
better
be very
tuition than from him. And I think he spent
the
6
fear of
months just
failure.
learning on time trialing.
Fear of failure. I mean, I don't. It's nice to be rubbish and not try to change, because then you might actually, you've still got that comfort of thinking, well, I am rubbish, however, you know, I probably would be really good if I didn't have a bus under my brakes, or I didn't have, you know, it's, I understand the sort of the psychology of being in denial. So yeah, no, I mean, I don't know. At the moment, I'm quite happy just with the pressure.
You would get faster though. I think if you could learn with someone that you could learn from, then I think you would find you would get faster pretty quickly, because you've already got an eye for it. I think as all of us who are motorsport enthusiasts, you know, we've kind of followed the lines of the track, we follow the basics, we kind of learn things because we're keen. So I think, you know, and you've already got knowledge of racing. So I think you would pick it up pretty quickly, and then you would learn the kind of tricks of the trade as well with the sim games, you know, and sim racing.
Yeah, very possibly. Yeah, or yeah, probably, absolutely.
Now, Yvonne Hoefler has just been in for her pit stop, so she is back out on a fresh set of tyres. But it's Daniel Egent who is now 1 minute and 13 seconds ahead of Ray Riviera in second.
Wow.
And that Toyota is looking pretty reasonable. I wonder whether Daniel is using a pad, because that car seems to jump a little bit round corners.
Could be.
Not as smooth as some other cars, but he's still doing pretty well in the lead, and he's just done the fastest lap. In fact, 8 minutes 15.901, I think that is.
Yes, it is 901. Yeah.
Yeah, so they are getting very, very competitive times, and he's certainly showing. Oh, he's gone off just as I look at that. He's gone on the grass, and he's struggling a bit, but he's back on the tarmac. I think that's just the camber of the track.
He's a quarter of a tank. Yeah, I've changed. I've just thought I'd mix up the camera angles. I hate this camera angle, but you know, people like to see things. So I was down with. Where was I? Oh, where'd you go? Yeah, I was with the Mr. Who. No, I wasn't with Mr. Hooligan. I was down with King Ears and Oshtatarata, because they're within the second half of each other. And I was just watching Oshtatarata catch up. He's pulling in the gap. That's not even English. Is that English? That's not English. He's catching him up. He's gaining on him. There you go. He's gaining on him.
He's just 1.3 seconds behind.
This, Matt, is why I know about which leg I put my foot into first, because this has been getting, the last 20 years, this has been getting worse and worse and worse. So I've been trying to find ways of making it better again. So I do things like brush my teeth with different hands each day to try and fire up different bits of my brain and get them working, you know.
Makes sense.
Stuff like that. I'm quite a bit of reading on this kind of thing, just trying to get my brain working. It's like I'd completely forgot today that I'd asked you to co-commentate, until Hugh mentioned that I'd asked him to co-commentate. So I was wondering why I was asking you all these questions about it, and then it's like, oh yeah. And it was,
I'm curious to see whether King is going to be under pressure soon from Easttown in PA. Only a second now. He was 2 seconds earlier, so I don't know whether he's only got another 0.2 tenths of a second to get into that slipstream range, and then he can draw King Ears back in. But I don't know whether King Ears went for the mediums. I'll just check now. Yes, he's on mediums, and Easttown is on softs.
Yeah.
Both Group 4 cars though, so it's just at the moment Mr. Rata is just faster than the Scirocco.
Yeah. I didn't realise that you could actually have multiple class racing on GT Sport. That's a new thing that I've learned today.
Yeah, they've done that. Done that a few times, haven't they?
Don't set the class.
I thought you could only have one. I thought you could only have one class of racing, so now that's good to know.
Yeah, I think you can only set one. You can't set two, if you know what I mean. But if you want more than one, you just don't set it.
Ah, right, okay.
Oh, so you can specify one alone.
Yeah,
if you just leave it
because this is a
open,
private event, isn't it? Obviously, we're a very well-arranged event with a very good charity organisation, the Pleb Racing Series, and yeah, everyone here sort of has all the details signed up, terms and conditions, sort of thing. So, yeah.
Indeed.
There we go.
Oh yeah, so they've got mediums and softs. On Gran Turismo, do they make a big difference? The different tyres?
Yeah, massively.
Yeah.
I found that out. I can't remember what I was in. I think it was the FT 1500A, that fast super formula sort of thing, the old one. And you could very, very much tell the levels of grip. But again, it's quite easy to get used to them. Just got to learn learn the lines. That's all I was going to say. Just got to learn the lines.
Yeah. Well, I suppose at the moment it's steering and brakes. I was just going to say, I was just about to say he seems to have sort of capped off at a second. Oh, he's made a mistake there and he's lost a little bit of time, 2/10, and then he made up a 10th. Now he's lost 2/10. So let's go in car and get some straight cut gearbox wine. We like a bit of straight cut gearbox wine around here. That's one thing when I started watching Assetto Corsa on Taya's stream. I really liked the noise, the sound, the whine of the gearboxes, the roar of the. Some of the cars on here do sound really good, especially if you put headphones on.
Yeah, they don't give you that sort of popple and crack though, do they, that you want? Especially from race cars, because they pop and crack. I don't know, because I was getting pops and cracks. What was I driving yesterday that was popping and cracking? Something was popping and cracking yesterday. It might have been a Porsche 911 GT3. I hated that car. I still hate it. What a pile of poo. Oh my god. Well, I took two other cars around. There was the GTR, someone else, I can't remember, and then I thought, let's try the 911, mix it up a bit. You turn in, spins. You brake, spins. You accelerate, spins. You do none of those things, spins. What the hell? Tried setting it up, spins. Ugh. Hideous. Beetles. Well, 0.6 of a second is in the slipstream range of King Ayres now in the orange rain livery as they make way through the right-hand section of the Nürburgring. So he's telling, obviously, the softs that he's on, the soft compound, working to his advantage. They are more worn than the mediums, but even so, you do still get them levels of grip when the weight of the car and the suspension is settled. Obviously, it's that initial scrub of the tyres. Obviously, the faster you turn in, the more you ask of the tyre, the quicker it scrubs, etc. That's one of the things that's quite good about Gran Turismo. They've definitely modelled and coded how aggressive you are with the steering inputs, and that most certainly affects your tyre wear over time.
So the smoothness does actually make a difference?
A big difference, yeah. And then obviously, depending on the race, like they do with the dailies, which is something I don't touch anymore, but they do tyre wear, and ×8 tyre wear sort of thing, which, although not realistic, if you're driving harder you lose tyre wear, so towards the end of the race you can struggle and you might spin the car, or you just lose those few tenths, which lose a position. So yeah, that's one of the good things about this here. They have got some good code in there.
Okay. I did notice that when I was commentating on a couple of races or watching some races recently where I knew who was on a pad and who was on a wheel, and you could see the tyres wore a lot less with the wheel, because they were able to be that little bit more accurate, a little bit more gentle. The turning of the wheel. When I was using the motion controller, I was still turning the wheel, but it was like I couldn't feel what was going on, so I was always overturning. and that happens a little bit less now. I can be more accurate with it, which is why Special Stage X I can do a lot better, because now I can take it round the banks and stay in the same place, whereas before it was a little bit sort of up, down, up, down, up, down, you know, overcorrect, overcorrect, overcorrect. So it's definitely made a big difference, which is good. I'm very, very glad, because I would have hated to have thought that my Christmas present, you know, hasn't delivered any dividends for me. Now that's interesting. He's still not managed to get past his.
Do you know, I was just going to say, down that straight, he was second away from him, so he was just out of slipstream range, bless him, down the longest straight of the Nordschleife there, but he's got another lap to do it, so we'll see what happens on this lap. We're currently on board with East Town in pursuit of King Ears. See whether we can make anything happen as they go through the racetrack section here, the German track.
We have 48 minutes to go. So we've had 1 hour,
it's getting
12
lighter.
minutes.
Looks like the mist is maybe clearing in places.
We'll give Moomin a little bit of love in P10. In the black and gold Mitsubishi. Showing his support for the PRS Endurance Series for Rain National Network.
So he's holding his own, to be fair. That must be quite a hard car to drive around here, because it doesn't have the top speed of the other cars. It's probably good in the bends, but it's really going to struggle on those long straights. And that's where, so he's coming up to maybe, I don't know if he's been lapped yet, but he's about 7 minutes behind the leaders. So it can't be another minute or so, and then he'll be maybe potentially getting lapped. But to go for more than half the race is pretty good going.
He's got fairly consistent lap times, though. I mean, there was a bit of an issue on lap 4, but his fastest time has been a 9:09, which is pretty good. And otherwise, it's like 9:13, 9:16, 9:13, 9:15. So, you know, considering how this track catches you out, he's done a pretty good job, I reckon, of being consistent, which is always a good sign.
Yes, East Town P8 is 0.5 of a second away from King Ears in P7. We've got German chasing down the UK as they make their way out of the left-hander and up to that little bit of a jump where you want to be flat right. We'll see what happens here and see whether East Town can get a good run out of this right-hander.
Oh, bit of understeer there.
I have to say they're doing really well, because every corner here you've got to be concentrating. If you don't, you're going to spin off and crash easily. So to manage to go for 2 hours tonight and stay consistent is really, really good.
Interesting. He's had 2 laps now chasing, and how many times have I said that if you're out on your own, it's actually harder than driving behind someone, because you can use them as a sort of a gauge, as a datum point, can't you, for your braking and your steering. So the last 2 laps have both been within 0.2 of a second of each other, which is pretty impressive on this 14-mile.
Hard on the brakes.
Oh my goodness, they both nearly lost it there, didn't they? King Ears was obviously he's trying his hard to stay ahead and go as fast as he can, and Mr. East Town was just sort of pulled along into the corner. They both went in a little bit too fast, but they kept it together. So impressive, so impressive. Oh, a lot of curb there for King Ears, a lot of curb.
Yeah, the Army veteran seems to have got that Volkswagen under complete control, but like I mentioned previously, he was very fast in every single time I was looking at it when I used to play the dailies. He was always up in the top 3s, and you know, next to VQS Jack, so he's definitely a quick dude, as the Army veteran King is. But it looks as though East Town just losing out some of the corners. I think those softs on the BMW M4 are beginning to... it's where now? It's about being as smooth as possible if he wants to stay within that magical 0.750 of a second. If he wants that shot of overtaking King Ears, but obviously Mr. Ears on the mediums, deciding to go for one less stop than the soft tyres. It'll be interesting to see how that one plays out towards the end of this race.
You've got a bit of a chat going on with this battle in your chat. Supporters of both drivers here, talking about tyres and how well they're both doing. Oh, it's coming up. Oh,
well, I mean, if you look at the tyre wear from the mediums of the Volkswagen, he's got, the rears are absolutely fine. The fronts are beginning to wear, coming up towards half a tank of fuel, so he's beginning to shed some weight. But obviously, of course, we've got the BMW M4 now in hot pursuit, maximising on all of available slipstream. But as you can see, the tyre wear is much more pronounced, although not too much more on the fronts, but the rears are beginning to wear, which of course will mean that they'll initiate a spin or perhaps get that rear end a little bit loose. So he's going to have to be careful on the throttle until he gets some new softs on, but Mr. Ears is doing an incredible job of holding off Easttown in the BMW M4.
Mr. Atta gave him a little bit of a love tap as he came up right behind him there, which caused Ears to put his hazard lights on. I guess these guys know each other, and if they're gonna have a little pat on the bum, it's all in good fun.
So it's not like Andy Rouse and John Pilland in the old days of Toyota and Vauxhall. Yeah.
Or Plato and who's you keep
Matt Neal.
Matt Neal fights.
Yeah,
my goodness, they did not
now,
like
here's an interesting talking point to you. Obviously relating to, I guess, the future of sim racing, the future of Gran Turismo, the future of car creations and racing itself, because obviously, again, going back to rally and being an avid fan, and now I'm watching the actual WRC, which I think begins in a few days, actually, at the Monte Carlo Rally. They've unveiled all of the new cars for the 2022 season. And
these are the hybrid ones,
hybrids. Yes, so they're a 1.6. They still sound absolutely incredible. They've still got that rally sound.
Cool.
But they've got the hybrid engine, which produces, obviously, a massive and instant amount of maximum torque, so the acceleration is quicker, but obviously they've got other things to think about while driving it. It's a different power delivery, but it opens the question, because obviously hybrid is the gap between the two, but of course full electric will be very much the part of motorsport in the future, and I just sort of wonder where that'll take us and how that will portray on sim racing, and perhaps just to sort of end, you know, in the days that we actually do go full electric, how amazing, especially like, you know, talking PS7 or 8 or something with VR or whatever, and you know, how amazing would it be for someone who's grown up with electric cars to be able to get into a sim and drive the old, what's old, new now, but old to them, BMW M4 and the engine noises and the rear wheel drive and the power delivery and the rev bands and, you know, all this sort of stuff, because electric's just power, it's all or nothing, you use the percentage, but obviously an engine's got a torque band, it's got newton meters, it's got brake horsepower, it's top speed, acceleration, you know, there's so much to consider.
And also how the power's delivered, because with electric motors you get maximum torque at 0 RPM, and if you gear them up, you know, if you include a gearbox like you get on the Teslas, you can go really very fast in them. But like you say, it's the biggest problem with electric cars, of course, is, well, one of the two biggest problems with electric cars is weight.
Yeah.
One of the three, I'm doing a Monty Python now, one of the three biggest problems with electric cars is weight. The second one being range, because even with all the research going on with, you know, with polymer batteries and oxygen batteries and all sorts of stuff going on like that, they're still not there, not even close. And even with a hybrid, you need electric, you need batteries too, whatever goes on. And of course the third problem is that they're not actually environmentally friendly at all, because they're filled with incredibly toxic materials and take a huge amount of energy to both make and dispose of. So I don't know whether they will be going electric, because it's a political move. You know,
It is, but it's something that's been in the works for 20 years plus, and one of my friends that was working for a company told me about losing his job, and I asked him why, and he said it was a long time coming, and it's because of the electric cars. I think because I don't want it to go political, but I think because it's political, I think that's why it is going to go electric.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's definitely been pushed, and what you've got to understand is that I don't dislike electric cars. I think they're great.
Yeah.
You know, I've never had a problem with sort of electricity or any kind of technology like that. I just have a problem when it's touted as something that it isn't. You know.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've got no problem with trying to look after this planet.
Do you remember Memory Space? There was a picture. I can't remember the specific year, but there was a picture of someone being delivered, maybe IBS or something. It was the first ever memory storage device, and it was like 1 gigabyte or something, and it was a 6-foot thing, and it was 3 foot wide, and they delivered it on a lorry.
Not a gigabyte. It was 1 kilobyte.
1 kilobyte. Yeah, exactly, exactly. But it was huge, wasn't it? It was huge,
magnetic core memory. You basically had wires crossing each other with a metal ring around the intersection, and when you had a current going through two wires, that was one, that was a 0, that was a 1. So each intersection of two wires was 1 digit in binary. And so if you wanted any kind of size of memory, it took up the side of a room.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. I believe that because it's now at the forefront of, a lot of people are now being asked to come in and engineer new cars and build these electric engines. I believe that in time they will become lighter and smaller and more efficient, because obviously you can get a 128 gigabyte card that's the size of it's 3 millimeters wide now.
I mean, put it this way: the first electric car. Do you know what year the first electric car was produced?
It was a long time ago. But no.
1910.
Yeah.
I think it was 1910. I'm open to be corrected, but
I agree with you, Roo, that I think it is political, and this is where I think there's so much hype, but the actual truth of the electric car situation is nowhere near as what they would have you believe. Because, like, for example, the latest kind of family hatchbacks that are electric, it's like the Skoda. There's a new Skoda. There's a Volkswagen. I can't remember the names of the actual models, but they're roughly in the mid 40-odd thousand. I think that the Skoda is about £41,000, and it can do about 250 miles, and that's on a realistic range, right?
Wow.
So yes, it's more than a Nissan Leaf, because Nissan Leaf's been out since it was late 2008, 2009, I think, when they started making the first Nissan Leafs thereabouts. So the thing is, even in the latest Leaf, you can only get about 150 miles on a charge, and the first one you could get about 90 miles realistic. Depending if you're in a nice hot country where it's doesn't use as much power for didn't need so much air conditioning or whatever, you'd get a bit more out of it.
If it goes down, like we all know with batteries, if you get cold, you get less. Yeah.
And that was early on. They've only gone up by 40 or 50 miles realistic. The Skoda is a bit better, to be fair, and the VW is a bit better. I know the Teslas have these claims, but the problem is if it's so fast, you're going to use all the power up very, very quickly. So it's difficult to say now. I can see there's a huge battle going on as we're speaking here about the electric car revolution between 7s and 8s. They're side by side as they go onto the back straight, with a few curves in it, if that makes any sense. King Ears and Austrate is having a massive battle, and is in the slipstream, but there's no way past. If he keeps the line, it's going to be very, very difficult. But he's pushing through. They come into the left-hander where you're going to be so careful, because you can run wide. They touch the grass. And number 8 is well over the grass there and coming in. He's going to watch his tyres. Then they come into the heavy braking for the sharp right-hander before the banking, the famous mid kind of, what is it called, the half back into the bank corner, carousel. They're coming into the carousel now, and watch as those wheels go down to the left, and they hold you round, but they've both completed that nicely. And as they come through, the Scirocco is still in lead. King Ears holding his own. It was pretty close, but it looks as if King Ears has just managed to hold that gap, and we can all relax.
Well, of course, what's interesting to me is that if Vata gets past King Ears is so much faster on the main straight.
Yeah.
That, with this, and that's without the slipstream. He pulls away from him. That he'll be able to draft straight past him. So he'd have to get past and then get quite a bit of a lead over him to make himself safe.
The big issue is that we're looking at number 8 here. He's got no fuel. He is literally on the red.
Yes,
so his tyres and his fuel are out. He's going to have to come in this lap to get more fuel and a new set of tyres.
New set of tyres, whereas King Ears has got no wear on the back, nowhere near as much wear on the front, and he's got half a tank.
Yeah. So this battle will finish at the end of this lap.
Yes.
Unless
he won't lose eighth. He won't lose eighth though, because he's a minute 12 ahead of Diesel. I should go back and see. I mean, I'll stick with this while because it's like the only sort of inter-car battle that's going on instead of a tactical battle, so we get to see things.
Yeah.
I was just trying to.
So
going back to
the electric battle. So I think it's a battle of ideas, though, isn't it? It's a battle of ideas.
I guess so. Yeah,
I think the problem is it's the cost, the long-term sustainability. Can you actually make the numbers of cars required that people want to buy across the globe? I don't think you can do the numbers. My other issue is, people say, it's the new technology, it's where it's going. But, we only change technologies when the new technology is better than the previous one. Like you bought a CD because it was better than a tape player. You bought a DVD because it was better than a video. It was natural kind of better technology, or your car was better consumption. Now, I've got a car that does 700 miles on a tank of fuel.
Wow.
Why would I buy a car that does barely 150 to 200 and costs about 15 grand more? So that's a big problem. So unless I think there's a major breakthrough in electric technology, and it has to be colossal, I just don't see how it's going to work. I think maybe we're more likely to get hydrogen, or this could all go belly up and we'll be back to petrol and diesel.
Well, you see, I don't think we necessarily have to go back to petrol and diesel because, I'm going to big up the channel of Harry Metcalf. Right, he's gone into the pits now. Around, it's what's that? While we're doing that, just to give him a bit of exposure, then we'll see what Moomin's doing. If anybody sees anything going on, let me know, and I'll go there too. One of the things about Harry Metcalf is he's a car nut, like me, like you. He knows his stuff, but he drives electric vehicles and he drives hybrids and he drives different kinds of cars and he takes them for real world tests, but not like tests. He'll keep them for 3 weeks or a month or 6 months or a year, and he just takes you along with him. And he's done a few electric cars, and my two favourite ones. He did the Tesla, the Model 3, and that you do get a longer range with it. The batteries technology is sort of like they're all much of a muchness, but it's the control, the control and the control of the motors, and their motors are different. They've got much more efficient motor design. That's quite well known. So great, but their main advantage is their charging network. They have got super fast chargers, and they're not everywhere because they're certainly not around in North West Wales. But they are around. There's a lot more in main places, like on motorways and stuff, than you would find other kinds of charging. And one of his sort of bugbears is he doesn't understand why other chargers and other companies make their charging networks so hard to use. Whereas the Tesla one, you just plug it in and everything talks to your phone and it just does it. and you have a cup of coffee, half hour, you come back and you've got half or three quarters of a charge again. Boom, off you go. But I was he had it. Now let's get this right. It's called the Audi e-tron GT Mega Nutter Bastard, or whatever it is. It's just incredible. It's based on the Porsche Turbo S.
Oh yeah.
It's basically underneath. It's supposedly meant to be the same, but my God, this thing's so fast. It's just there's this one junction where he pulls out, and there's no, even some of the fastest petrol cars just can't do it. Oh my goodness, it's just, and that's fantastic. And they've also got, as part of it, they play a sound through the speakers, so it sounds like its own kind of engine, so you can hear it. It's more involving, you know.
Yeah.
But it is huge and heavy, and its range is tiny compared with the Tesla. So there is all that kind of stuff. Plus, it's very expensive. The other problem is, and he points this out in his shows, is that it's cheap now to charge them.
Yeah.
But that's only because of subsidies.
Yeah.
Okay, they're subsidising the electric networks. When there's no competition, they're not going to be cheap.
Yeah.
When there's no competition, they're going to be doing what they're doing with petrol and diesel, and they've got you over a barrel, and then you're going to be charged for it. So there's that as well, which is a bit of a worry. But it's also got another 2 videos where he was invited by Lord Bamford of JCB to go to their factory and talk about what their idea was. They are developing, because electric vehicles are just no good for commercial vehicles.
Yeah.
Can't have buses and trucks charging for 10 hours to do another 200 miles, hauling 44 tons. And they won't be able to haul 44 tons because they're going to have 10 tons of batteries in them.
Yeah, yeah.
And people keep talking about hydrogen fuel cells. Now, you know, fuel cells is another very complex technology with very expensive metals, platinum and palladium, which there's not a lot of it around, plus all the other electronic stuff that's required for it. And so it sounds like a good idea in theory, but in practice it's going to be difficult to use mass-produced.
Yeah.
But there's hydrogen combustion. And hydrogen as a fuel is immensely energy dense, much more energy dense than petrol or diesel.
Yeah.
So the problem you have to overcome there is the same problem you would have with hydrogen fuel cells, which is storing the hydrogen in the vehicle. The actual engine technology, we've been developing internal combustion engines of various types for 150 years or more, and we're getting them pretty efficient now. Yeah. And they're reliable, and the manufacturing capability is already there. You don't really have to change them very much, if at all, to run hydrogen as a combustible fuel. You get tons of power out of it, and it produces water. And you can make it if you need to make hydrogen for fuel cells. You got exactly the same problem with making it for combustion. It's just you got a much simpler and more usable and scalable technology for the combustion. Now, personally, I think that's like the most appealing idea to me.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Not as a philosophical thing, but just as a usability.
Yeah.
Just straight usability. So, but the problem is, and this is where I have the problem with it being a political issue, Matt, is that people are believing the story that the only thing we can do, they believe the story that electrical vehicles are zero emission. Yeah. In what world? The only way it's like the Hunger Games. In the capital, they're all rich and happy and everything's brilliant, and they've got so much food they have to take drinks to throw up so they can fit more food in them, and where everybody else is starving and working really hard. So in the capital, they'd be using electric vehicles, but the electricity would be being made in all the districts. Yeah. From wood-fired power stations labelled as environmentally friendly when they're shipping the wood across the Atlantic. Burning it less efficiently than they can burn coal because it's got a lower burning temperature. The flame temperature's lower because of the volatiles in wood, which is why they made charcoal out of it, to get rid of all the volatiles. And people go, oh, this is environmentally friendly and we've got environmental subsidies because we've got a wood-fired power station. And it's like, yeah, but the wood-fired power station is less efficient and the fuel is being shipped across the Atlantic to get there instead of 10 miles down the road.
I can see it now, you know, we're all going to have to get like an exercise bike and pedal like 2 hours a day, and then anything we make is going to go to the grid, and then we'll get that back as a kind of free energy.
When they were trying to cook an egg with a hairdryer.
I literally think that's probably what's going to happen. We're all going to have to get exercise bikes and cycle for 2 or 3 hours a day. And that'll power our house for a few minutes.
So I mean, this is the problem, and someone like me saying something like that, you know, you're a Jeremy Clarkson petrol head, you just want to pollute everything, and it's just nothing could be further from. I mean, for God's sake, my PhD was on you know, using renewable resources to stop the need to you know. I love efficiency because I was brought up by a man from the Victorian era where you never threw away screws.
Yeah.
Or nails. You know, you pulled them out the wood and you straightened them and you used them when you needed them again. Whoops, Diesel's gone round and round. But he's having fun. And it's nothing could be further from the truth. I just don't like hype and I don't like lies. But... And on, you know, in support of what Matt was saying in terms of technology, the inclusion of electrical things in vehicles, for example, you know, in some fashion, is a really good idea. Look at the efficiency of Formula One combustion engines now. Now, the reason why they're so efficient isn't just because they've got the hybrid technology in, you know, slowing down in the battery pack and all that kind of stuff. It's to do with the turbocharger, and there's some amazing cars out there at the moment, including the new Land Rover Defender, which use a very similar sort of technology for their superchargers. You've got an electric motor on spinning up the compressor, and you've got a generator running off the turbine, and that's waste energy.
Yeah.
You know, the thing about turbochargers, it's always using waste energy. So hot exhaust gases come out the back of your car. They can either do nothing or they can spin a turbine that generates electricity, which can then be used for things like on the new diesel, I think it's the P300D or whatever it is, Defender. They have a big turbocharger, which is run in the normal way. They have got a smaller one, which has an electric motor on it as well, and it spins it up, totally removing turbo lag, and it also has what they call a mild, I think it was mild electric assistance or something like that. It's like a little, it's like a massive starter motor. It doubles up as a starter motor, so it's not like a full hybrid system, but it torque fills a bit and it gives you a bit of oomph when you need it because it's got max torque at 0 RPM. That's a great idea. It's not too much weight, and if we can get batteries, I mean, there's nanotubes. I love nanotubes. I've loved nanotubes when they were from the first time I was at a lecture with Professor Harry Kroto, the guy that's discovered Buckminster fullerene, the only perfectly pure form of carbon. Okay, so I'm in my masters, and this guy, this nutter, comes along and is explaining what this stuff is, and nanotubes are derived from the same sort of technology, and they can hold a charge. And with nanotubes, you could theoretically have a paint layer on your car that is the battery.
Wow.
Now, they can't do it yet, but the idea is there, and if they can develop something like that, I mean, you wouldn't need batteries. You just have a layer on the outside of your car, or a thin strip layer. Brilliant ideas like that. I think are superb. I'd love that. Oh, Moomin, what are you doing? You got spat out of Mini Carousel. Poor fella. No, he got spat out of Carousel. So anyway, that's my sort of take on it. That yeah, there's a lot of research going on. There's a lot of money for the research, but it shouldn't be in the hands of politicians, because politicians don't give a flying foobar. That's why they keep having parties while the rest of the world is locked down. You know, because it doesn't affect them.
Well, it's they know what
It
they're
just
doing.
should be in the hands of people that are open-minded and generally want to make good things happen, you know. And
I think, I mean, it's, for example, you've got Formula E, which is proving to be quite popular. Because they put it in cities, don't they? So every track, you're not allowed to have it at tracks that are out in their own, you know, out in the countryside. It's all got to be easy to get to and around tracks that are in heavily populated areas, which is fine. It seems to do all right, but I think, you know, it's heavily subsidised in that way, you know. And what we would really like to see is things like a Formula E car properly. I think they do actually. To be fair, they race it around Monaco. But maybe some other tracks that are more demanding, because that's when you really see how does it compare. Is it any good? Every year, are these cars actually improving? And so also, what's the cost? Because ultimately, we're going to have to pay for that. And I think that, as you say, that with electricity costs going up dramatically, that's going to be a real problem. It's okay at the moment when they're subsidising it, although we're paying for it in other ways. But when that stops, and it will eventually stop, because they, you know, they're saying now that seemingly a third of our energy bills are on green subsidies.
Yes, they are.
Renewables, and that's just unsustainable. Because, you know, if people can't afford to pay their bills, and you know, and if they're saying, well, either we eat or we pay our energy bill, in some cases, then it's going to very quickly add up. So I think this is a matter of hype over reality. And see, the biggest problem, I remember even up to a few years ago, because we're at Company Car in Action, we get to see a lot of new cars coming through from the manufacturers, and they were still, still pushing petrol and diesel. Only really last year did they push electric only, and most of the cars were the hybrids or electric. Because the big problem is nobody's buying them. Right, even though they make all this big thing about electric cars, and the percentage of how many more folk bought an electric car compared to last year. But if you actually look at the numbers, it's not big numbers, really. And when you consider what COVID has done to the car market, you know, I mean, we were selling 2 million cars a year, brand new. I mean, we had a really strong market in Britain, and that has been dramatically hit. But with that, only a very small percentage were electric. And although it's going up a bit, it's not jumping up, you know. So whatever the government do to try and say we're all going to have an electric car, and probably the biggest buyer of electric cars is the public sector. You know, because they buy them for councils, for their carers, and for all that kind of stuff.
Almost like
so
fleets.
There's a huge amount of stuff that goes to the fleets. The NHS have thousands of them. NHS staff have thousands of them. You know, that's where a lot of it's going. So the actual private punters say they don't want them, but a few people do if they're on a lease or whatever.
Because if you're private punter, you haven't got a special car.
It's a huge amount of money. Yeah. You're going to pay 50, 60 grand for a car if you want any kind of something, you know, any kind of decent performance out of it, or, you know, or long range.
But not just that, you've got to be able to use it. You know, you've got to be able to use it. I just got a heads up from Matt's stream, where Phil PRT Hooligan was catching up with Yvonne, and just as we went to him, I went on board. He span, bless. He's really struggling. His tyres aren't that. He's on mediums, but his tyres aren't that. I think he's just a bit flustered. You know, he's kind of like was catching her up.
Racing into it, yeah. Only 15 minutes to go as well.
Yes, 15 minutes. He's now.
But you've started a very big question there, Matt.
Yes,
a very big. But I suppose it's good to go over it though, because it is difficult. It's a real challenge, and I think the problem is what we're facing is it's propaganda over the facts, and ultimately motorsport breaks through all that because you get the real facts. Because is the car any good? Is the racing any good?
Well, that's an interesting point, because I think
they can't hide in it.
When testing, aren't they? And the other thing I was going to say, have you heard about this the green light thing with these electric cars?
Green light thing? No.
So basically, these all electric cars. There's a video that Super GT's just done. He was test driving a 1.5 million off-roader, all electric, and the rally cars have got a light on them because they produce 750 volts, high voltage. So they've got a light in the dash, and obviously it's green, meaning it's safe, it's okay. But if it goes red, you can absolutely not touch the car. means it can
Oh,
kill
this
you.
is like with F1, they have to wear big rubber gloves, and they can't just come up and push the car like they used to, because they might
Yeah,
get
I
a
mean,
massive jolt.
just again going off sort of Hughes, because again, I really can't make it political because this isn't what this is about. But I wholeheartedly believe that the government will do it for their own personal gain, which is why I do believe that electric will be quite a big thing.
So they'll push it through regardless, because they're, for whatever
yeah, they're
reason,
gonna
are
make
getting
the money, aren't
something.
they? It's just, they've got their own gains.
Yeah.
Like you said with 10 Downing Street, it's one rule for them, one rule for us. But my point here is that,
We've got shares with, doesn't it?
Hugh's point of racing, and the community that is racing will be testing all this, which is why we're now just testing these hybrids, which is why I'm talking about them, because they're just now putting them into testing. And I mean, there's the first thing I can see, which you both mentioned, was weight. Like, you can definitely tell as they're going through the corners, at least, that they're a lot slower, they're a lot more cautious to get back on the throttle, just making sure they can get around the corner. But I think Hugh's absolutely right. I think the racing community is a separate community to the consumerist. I need to get to work, I've got to take my kids to school, I've got to drive 500 miles every week, you know, whatever purpose it is for whatever our situation is. But then there's motorsport.
Whatever it is, it's got to work. Number one, it's got to work, and it's got to do the job they need it to do. And then if it's fun, that's kind of like a secondary bonus rather than the point. Yeah, carry on. Sorry, I interrupted. I do apologise.
No, I just hope that, you know, even if whatever happens, but I think that the sound and the smell is as much as motorsport as it is getting in a car and racing. Like, you know, racing is racing, but there's something very special, isn't there, about smelling that petrol and that noise.
Look at the videos on YouTube that are just on pure car sounds, and they'll have like a hashtag pure sound, you know. Some screaming V10, V12 or something.
I think, unfortunately, it will become more political as they expose the problems with electric cars, unless there is a major improvement in performance in the next few years. Because there's a massive pressure on the car industry, and at the moment they're just about keeping up with it. Because a lot of car manufacturers are not making much money. You know, they're struggling to make ends meet. They're having to go, you know, like Fiat has just now become part of Renault. Peugeot. They've all had to merge and keep merging.
Really? Fiat? Yeah. Fiat
is applied to the PSA group. Yeah.
That's huge.
It's a big one. They had to go through the mergers.
I've kept up with stuff like this for a long time, but my goodness, that's
and the thing is, if it's so, and Renault, you know, which is massive in the electric part, you know, it's all merged with Nissan and all the rest of it. It's all very well if the government, you know, I think it's 40% owned by the government, by the French government, so they can keep piling on the money into it. But eventually, for private companies and other manufacturers, it's, unless they're making money. Now, I think people like BMW and Volkswagen, you know, they've got a lot of sales, and also they've got a lot of sales in countries where petrol and diesel are still very strong and aren't looking like they're going to change very soon, so they can make good money there. But for some manufacturers, they are in a real troubled position. And the problem is that this is part of the agenda behind the electric movement, is that they don't want as many people driving normal cars. They want to get people into public transport. And if the car prices go up dramatically, which when you think about it, they are. I mean, in Europe, by 2030, but even today, you cannot get a cheap car anymore. You know, things like Dacias used to be £7,000 or £8,000 a piece.
Got new petrol as well, haven't they? So some cars can't even drive with the new petrol. Because the problem is there's a big tax. Anything that does less or does more than 85 grams per CO2 per litre, it gets a €3,000 fine. So if that's why the manufacturers are having to have electric technology to try and bring their averages down, so they don't have to keep paying these taxes, you see. So now cars have gone up by minimum £3,000 in many cases over just a couple of years, you know, because the Euro 6 and Euro 7 emissions regulations are so strict that simply the technology cannot do it. We're just not able to meet it. The manufacturers are not able to currently meet the demands of what the EU is setting.
So this is why people are simply, when the petrol diesel ban comes into place in 2030, if it keeps going in this direction, people will not be able to afford a cheap new car. So, someone who passes their test today, when they're 18 or 17 or 18, can go to a dealership and buy a 3 or 4 grand, Corsa, no problem, and it's probably quite decent. It'll last them for a good few years, right? If the prices go up, they're going to have to pay, 10 grand for a car that might last, because it might be an older petrol car. But how are you going to pay 10 grand if you're 18 and you're barely in a first job, So
I've never been able to afford a car like that. All my cars were less than £1,000 until
the cheap cars are disappearing.
Last couple I bought, and even eight. I mean, to me, a cheap car is 250 quid. A normal car is 500 quid, and an expensive car is 3.5 grand.
Yeah, it's true. So that is disappearing, and because their goal is to have 80% of people using public transport and 20% using cars. And at the moment, it's the other way around. It's 80% using cars and 20% using public transport. And a big part of this is, if the electric cars continue to go ahead and if the market continues in this way, basically people will have to give up their cars. And that is the goal. That's the environmental goal. So this is the thing. But motorsport might actually break that, because if the cars cannot be efficient in motorsport, there's a much bigger price to be paid, because all the manufacturers that are into it are going to lose money. If motorsport doesn't take place, it's big events that lose money. It can cause a whole load of problems. So it's a very interesting battle, but I think people are going to get a more realistic view of what electric is like over the next few years, and it's going to be really interesting to see, can they overcome the issues that are there today, or will they have to revert to something else?
So this move over the past 40, 50 years to, and there's a word that I know that's the correct one for this, but I can't think what it is, but I want to say democratise, but it's given freedom to more people in society by more and more of us having a vehicle of some kind and able to go places and do things, is going to reverse. It's going to be back to people not being able to go anywhere. Because the problem I have at the moment is I spent 25 years being used to jump in my car, find a mountain, go and walk up it, or go for a drive, and it was kind of the only thing I had. Just took the kids in the car and off I went. The past few years I've not been able to do that, and now I can't even go shopping. I mean, COVID's made it even worse, but
I'm afraid that is the environmental goal.
I can't see anywhere, anything can't go anywhere. If I want to get on a bus, I'm limited to where I can go. I can go places, but they're all towns.
Because the only people that are going to be able to afford it are ones in the city. So because either you have to live in a city to get good public transport, but out in the sticks it's going to be very difficult.
Yeah, well, where I used to live in my home, there was virtually no public transport. On the occasions that our car broke down, I remember once I had to walk home, and I got home at 1:30 in the morning because the two buses I went to get, and they were like 4 hours apart, drove past me as I was walking to the bus stop, because they would just ignored the bus timetable. It was like, whatever, and off they went. And so in the end, it got to like 10:30 at night, and I just had to walk home in my work clothes.
I see, this is the issue, and this is where it becomes bigger, because unfortunately you can't hide these kind of goals eventually. That people will eventually ask the questions, or why is it getting like this? And when people can't, at the moment, they can still afford a car, because even though the prices have gone up, people have still got jobs, it's still okay. But when the prices really start to jump up because of inflation, that's when it will start making a big difference. And then when people simply cannot afford a car and they need a car for their job, then that will make a huge difference. That's when the calamity will start to happen.
Yeah, but at the moment, none of us have got jobs. We're all being told we've got to work at home. If you've got a job and you're being told you need to work at home. So is this part of the plan? Is this part of what they're doing? To sort of, I know they keep going on about this.
It's like a test bond, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, in America, the Democrats, for example, have basically said, be prepared for climate, what do they call it?
Lockdowns.
Isolation. Climate lockdowns, So now, obviously, they are not favoured by anywhere near the majority of the population.
Well, the mental health implications of lockdowns
are huge.
dire.
So I think
tens of thousands of people dying because
and you don't hear a thing.
Yeah, because of suicide and mistreatments and all sorts of things.
Because it doesn't work for their agenda, does it?
Yeah. So this is where, unfortunately, it is political, and this is where I think the electric dream will probably end, because I just don't think the population will put up with it.
Well, I hope you're right, Hugh. I really, really do. I hope that is the future.
Yeah, because I think, we all care about the environment. I hate litter. I love to recycle. I like to think you can get use out of things many times over. But we want to do it properly. There's no point wasting money. It's like, for me, what annoys me is that even hybrids are going to be outlawed by 2035. So all that technology that they're doing just now with Toyota and all these big companies doing these amazing amounts of technology, and the Toyota Prius, but I remember driving one in 2007, and it did 55 to the gallon, and I drove it from Edinburgh to London. And I was amazed with really how good it was. For a petrol car to get 57 to the gallon was amazing.
Really?
Yeah, it was a really good car. And that's improved. Those cars now, the current one does, well, I think nearly 70 or maybe even more. That's why the Uber drivers use them all the time in town. Because they can use the electric part quite easily and they're incredibly efficient. And when you're sitting behind a petrol car these days, you don't smell it. Where you used to smell the petrol, and 20 years ago you could smell the petrol. So they're incredibly efficient, but that technology, all that money, all that stuff going into it is going to be outlawed in 2035. So it's just a complete waste of time.
Just to quickly butt in, we're 14 laps down, we've got 2.5 minutes left. The rest of the pack's been sort of stuck in their own driving slots, if you will. Not really much action towards the end, but you sort of expect that for 2 hours with the Nürburgring. But it looks as though Daniel over 60 seconds ahead of Giant Tonic, and I think if Giant perhaps hadn't had the offices had, he may very well have been in chance for a P1 unless Daniel's been taking it conservative. But it looks as though Daniel's going to take a P1 today, but Ray Rivera is currently sitting in a podium position as well.
Yeah, that would be very good.
I was following Daniel because I wanted to know whether he would finish the lap before the time ran out. So this is his penultimate lap, and it's just started his final lap. I don't know how it's going to work with the rest of them though, because there's only got 1 minute 30 left. Depends how it's all going to be organised. Like you say, Giant Tonic 1 minute 3 seconds behind. I'm trying to let's have a look at the times. So he's doing an 8:24 and 8:20 the lap before that, 8:28, 8:27, 8:27, 8:21, 8:22. So let's compare that. 8:21, 8:23, 8:15. Wow, that's pretty quick. 8:29. So yeah, he possibly would have been, if they'd have been close for a few laps, maybe he would have sort of got into a groove and kept with him.
Yeah,
it was that first lap, wasn't it, where he span?
Yeah. King Ayers has got a 33-second gap between himself and East Town as well, so
it looks to me like
his
Ray
tactic has worked.
Sort of decided to sort of back off the last couple of laps, because he was doing 8:29s, 8:34, 8:23, but his last 2 laps were in the 8:40, so I think he's probably decided to keep it on the black stuff and come home for a bronze medal. Yvonne still in 4th, just going around carousel, hooking the wheel in. Again, she slowed right down on that last lap a bit. We don't know whether she span or whether it was just taking a sensible route. But again, brilliant drive. 7 seconds ahead of Mr. Hooligan, who I was following for a while, who was catching up with her, and then he had issues. He had a big spin. It took a little bit of a while to get his head back together, but he's doing okay.
There we go.
Serenity. Hello, Serenity.
Good to see you, Serenity. There we are. It's only the first placed man, Daniel Edgent, who is on the last lap. Everyone else has finished. They reckon they wouldn't be able to do another lap.
Oh, okay. 9
So
minutes
now-
remaining. Well, that's interesting because I reckon they would have got a 9-minute lap. A few of them anyway. But yeah, that's how the cookie crumbles. So we have. This is really weird. We have
Right, he's in second.
place.
Now, how did that happen?
Third place, Giant Tonic. Well, what happened there?
I thought he was third.
I
And
thought he
suddenly-
was third. That was weird.
Maybe driving Giant Tonic. Did he have a penalty, perhaps? Was he?
Not that I saw. That's very strange. We'll have to have
3
race
seconds.
stewards. Race steward. 3 seconds. Maybe he span. Maybe he had a nasty big spin. We'll have to have a look. Well, I'll save when we get to the end. I'll save the doodah and we'll have a look. Hello, Mr. Echoed Hugh. So, yeah, we've had a few comments about weird sounds, but yeah, that's just us talking stuff. Yvonne, come on, let's watch Yvonne go over the line. We'll watch one person go over the line for the end of the lap. Come on. Round mini carousel. Spat out the other side like a good un. Oh, but she might not get... Oh, can she get to the end of the lap without Phil overtaking it? Because Phil is 5 seconds behind, has made up half a second in the last few corners. Oh, how's this going to go?
2 hours racing and he's 4 seconds out of slipstream range.
4 seconds at the end. But he's catching her up. You can see her. She's going slow. She's not going slow. She's 166 miles an hour, so she's not actually going slow at all. But can Yvonne hold on to it? He's down to 4 seconds. This is superb. Oh my goodness! I didn't expect to see this much action at the end. Sparks flying down the dip.
I think she'll be okay. I think she's got it.
As much as I want Phil to do well, I'd be so gutted. 3.9 seconds after all that work in 4th place for so long.
She's done well.
She's done it. She's done it.
Here we go.
Phil, what are you doing? Get across the line, mate. You got to get. He's going across the line backwards. He's got 2
Into
minutes.
the pits.
That the king is. He's gone the wrong place. What are you doing? Phil, what are you doing? What are you doing, you nut job? Is this going to be like Schumacher back in the day when Ross Brawn made him serve his stop-go penalty on the last lap so that he went over the line in the pit lane and then served his penalty, so he still won. Bit of genius doodahs.
Yeah, 3 drivers still out on track. Daniel King is in East Town.
So they've all finished. Daniel still hasn't finished. What the hell? This is nuts. Only the plebs could do this. Oh, God. Take over from me, Matt. Take over. I can't cope. Hit me with something like a stick.
Well, it looks as though King is straight at the Nürburgring, finishing off the 2-hour epic stint. And I've only just noticed, actually, his Please No Punterino sticker. Giving some love to Jimmy Broadbent there on the above the Volkswagen badge. And East Town just also going through the final corner now and going on to that final straight. And P1 still yet to follow. He's got quite a few corners left. Very, very long laps, I guess, aren't they?
What's he insane?
There's
There's 3 people left to finish. 1st, 6th and 7th. Work that out. Moomin.
King is over the line, P6.
Well, Moomin's front tyres are absolutely destroyed. Absolutely. The back one's on.
There goes Daniel's been in the wall. And he's spinning all over the lake, then he's back on the track.
Yep. East Town crossing that start finish after 2 hours
You may well cut
of
it backwards
racing.
at this rate. Not intentionally.
So they've all finished now. Everyone's finished apart from the leader, which is just very...
He's having a parade
he's
lap.
on the grass. Yeah. He's doing it for this.
Flames
For the
spitting out the back of that Supra.
Oh, you know what? Yeah.
He's obviously realised there's parts of the track that need the grass cutting. Who knows what the state of that front splitter will be. Entering the home... well, it's not the home... Is it the home straight? Would this be called the home straight? I don't know. The straight. The big straight.
Well, I guess it is really, isn't it? Yeah.
He's got no fuel. He's managed to perfect it fuel-wise. Look at that. He's got absolutely... His fuel light is flashing as he goes down the straight. His tyres are knackered. He's out of fuel, but he's making it to the end.
So, I thought I'd have a quick look at my little map, and he went along 2HOUR'S, which is like height. 2HOUR'S Heights. Antonius Bucher, Tiergarten. And now Start und Zielgerade. Ein bisschen Deutsch for the world. There you go.
There it is. P1 for Daniel.
We have the winner. We have gewinnt.
Well, big shout out to Daniel in the Toyota there. Absolutely incredible run and a well-deserved gold for him. And a big shout out to P2 and P3. Big shout out to Tonic and Ray Rivera there. And of course, big shout out to everyone else that joined. And yeah, big shout out to you guys on co-coms. First time we've done triple comms.
Yeah.
It went really well. I was just going to sit back and let you two talk, but I ended up talking a lot anyway, because I always do. Yeah. It's great. Thank you so much, both of you, for joining me and joining yourselves and being brilliant, as always.
Very welcome. Very welcome.
I'd like to have a shout out also to Mr. P. Hooligan, Phil, who organised this thing, the plebs in general, also It's Jay, who sadly had problems with his wheels, so he had to disappear, but he's been listed as 10th. There's a DNF, but he's been listed as 10th here. We also had a few that disappeared during it. Sophie Aronwen, and who else disappeared? Somebody else disappeared. I don't remember who it was. Somebody help me.
Sophie came in late. Yeah, Sophie went. One of the Stratton, I think.
Starch Birch or something like that. I can't. Statch Birch.
Yeah, I think he
in the Hurricane. Went quite a while ago. Obviously, had some other problems. But generally speaking, what a fantastic race. It was a fantastic chat as well. We had comments in Matt saying, this is very unusual, but I like it. It's like, okay, thank you very much. So Phil is saying Starch Birch. Yes, get it right, Phil.
Oh, he's the one that left, yeah.
So
a big shout out to Phil as well. I think he's deserves some credit for getting all this together. At the end of the day, this wouldn't happen without people, and everyone that gets involved makes it what it is. So yeah, absolutely fantastic. I can't wait for the next one.
My technical term for his tyres are knackered. was being commented upon. It is a technical term. Everybody knows what it means. Well, they do need it. The tyres are worn, very much indeed. Better? Jolly good tyres. So, I must remember, save the replay, Andrew. Save the replay. So, what do we do now? What do we do now? We need to find out how Ray got ahead of Giant Tonic, don't we?
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm going to have to quickly head because I've got potentially an early start tomorrow.
Yep.
But
all
thank
the
you
best
very
to
much,
Yvonne.
you two. Have a lovely night.
Tell her to, I don't know, my mum said use vinegar, that's good at cleaning things. I don't know whether it's any good for being ill though.
But I think she's okay. But hopefully
Dram of whiskey.
That's what drives the public sector. So it's,
I meant Yvonne. Duh.
Thanks for coming in, Hugh. It's been spot on. You're definitely a commentator.
Yes, it's been great fun actually. We've had some good conversations and a great race to talk about as well. It's well done to all the people who have participated tonight It's been really great fun watching and commentating and seeing the performances, and it's been a good wide range of cars. Yeah, I think everyone they'll be tired after that 2-hour stint, because that's 2 hours of complete concentration. But they've done extremely well to finish. And for the winners, fantastic. Well done to Daniel Edgent.
Super duper. Right, so what you do, Matt? Are you sticking around for a little bit, or you disappearing?
I've got to end my stream, say my thanks and goodbyes, and get on ACC and meet some friends.
No problem at all. So you do that. Thank you so much for joining us. I was hoping you would.
Yeah, I wasn't aware at the beginning. I wasn't aware that we were on the same lobby.
I sent a message to you. I sent a message to you on Discord. Then got a message from the Matt I was talking to saying, "Why are you asking me to do commentary?" And I realised it was completely wrong, Matt. Yeah, I'm doing so well. So I'm so glad you noticed, whenever you did notice, and I think it worked out pretty well. You did a brilliant job, and you had some fantastic questions. So, good lad. Well done. So thanks for joining us. I'll let you go, and I will do a replay thing just to find out what happened with Giant Tonic and Ray Riviera, and then stream my stream. So thank you so much. I've got your stream flagged in my description. Anyone listening, watch Matt's stream if you haven't already. You probably have, because it's brilliant.
Bless you. I look forward to the next time we're on comms, and I look forward to hearing your analysis on the after race review.
Okie dokie. All right. Cheers, everybody. Thank you all.
Take care.
Nighty night.
Ciao, ciao. Alrighty. Well,
we can still hear you. You've got to leave the chat thing.
Yep. That's alright, I'll do it with you in it, if you don't mind.
Oh, okay, fair enough. I'll shut up. Carry on.
It's no worries. Big thank you to everyone that's got involved with the Pleb Racing Series endurance races. It's great to obviously get to know you all and get involved in a great cause, and of course it's growing with some great people. So thank you to everyone that's joined in. Thank you for all those likes. I look forward to the next ones. I look forward to it all growing bigger and better. And yes, we will see you all next time. Ciao, ciao.